Hey, Scott Spears along with you on the new Exchange Club, Charlie. It's new.
Yes.
We are direct to internet. It is a whole new thing here.
I changed my socks.
You changed your socks for this?
Right.
It's a debut. It's a fun episode. We've got somebody here who a lot of people, we have a crowd here today.
We sure
for
do,
those
yes.
people who can't see.
Yeah, it's too bad the camera can't turn around far enough to see the crowd.
Camera cannot do 180 degrees
That's right.
backwards, so
Did you pass out numbers to all of them so we could award prizes?
wait till they see what the price was to come in here today. We're going to collect it on the way out.
Oh,
Charlie, our new website, we want to make sure to let people know what that is. Our new website, www.marionexchange.com. You go there, you can see these episodes, you can see archived episodes, you can get news, you can email us, all kinds of things there on marionexchange.com. No space.
can we get that on search just under Marion Exchange?
If you search, you will find it. Matter of fact, if you search any of our names,
Google it.
Google it, yeah, that should come up.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get right into this program because we have a very special guest who's made the trip in today, a Columbus, Ohio TV icon who you've talked about on this show
That's right.
before, Charlie.
Yes.
So we're going to get our housekeeping out of the way, and then we're going to talk with him and relive a lot of fond memories from the past. Charlie, fascinating facts for this episode.
Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about, we have an epidemic going on in Marion, I'm sure everywhere in Ohio, maybe elsewhere, of stealing. We have more thieves out there than Carter had little liver pills. You know, that's a lot. And so I'd just like to remind our viewers to button up their cars. Don't leave the things in your car that are worth stealing, like little iPads and Drindles, or not Drindle, but
Kindles.
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 or maybe those things you tells you where you're going. What
If
are they?
anybody is internet savvy, it's you.
GPS?
Yeah, those little things on some socket on their windshield from the inside to guide you.
That's your wife.
That's right. Right.
The voice.
She'll tell you where to
But anyhow,
go.
don't leave your wife in the car, but if you do, lock her in. You know.
The voice has come. I wonder if anybody recognized that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
well, I know.
You got to have a few years on you.
You would.
Yes,
You would have to have.
I do. But anyhow, I had one a friend who had all their Christmas presents stolen from their house, and even the title of their car. I mean, and this is going on all over the place. Just a short while ago, a home invasion. They tied the man up and took everything out of the house. It's really getting serious. I don't know if we ought to arm ourselves. I got a good slingshot.
Well,
It could cause a lot of problems.
you know the thing is you can arm yourself
Yes,
now. That's
yes.
totally legal. I don't know.
As long as
You
it's
don't have to-
licensed.
Do you have to drag the person in the house though before you shoot them?
You might have to. Yeah.
Just we got to make it legal.
You got to make sure all your
They
paperwork's
say
filed.
just get them up to the door jam. Once they're over
Okay.
there, boom, boom.
Yeah. Good idea. But yeah, and make sure that you don't leave anything that someone can come out your windows, look in your house, and see computers and all kinds of things. Ooh, I'll come back tonight and we'll just get that stuff.
You know, I want to tell a little story about these GPSs because that's one of my pet peeves, and I don't. You kind of pontificated there right
That's
away from
right.
GPSs. I don't
Yeah.
know what that had to do with home invasions. I don't remember.
Well, you see, they'll come in your house and take your GPS.
Oh, it
and you
should
won't
be-
know where you're at.
Well, here's
You won't know where to go to escape.
Here's my thing about GPSs, Charlie. I took a GPS to Washington, D.C., and they're fine when you're on the highway and they tell you where to go and what route to take or what route, whichever way it goes, whichever part of Ohio you're from. When you get on that highway, though, when you get into a city like Washington, D.C., New York, Manhattan, in New York, cities like those, Chicago, by the time it recalculates, you've already missed the street that you're supposed to catch up to, and that woman comes on and tells you to recalculate again,
Yes.
and you don't know where you are.
Oh.
Turn on Vine, recalculating, and now Vine, you've passed Vine, it's over.
And if you're a trucker, sometimes they take you down a road that's too narrow for your truck, and you get stuck.
You do.
That happens.
And sometimes it directs you, if you haven't updated it, to places that are closed, roads that have the big orange.
You know what a
cones.
NASCAR driver says?
What's that?
An instruction he gets from the GPS: turn left, turn left, turn left, turn left, turn left.
All,
Here's
Yeah.
all day long.
all you've heard is the voice so far, but we're coming to it. We're coming to it, I promise. We're going to unveil it in a second. We're coming. Mary Ann, give us the words of wisdom, then we're going to unveil who that voice is if you don't already know.
Well, this time, my words of wisdom are in the form of a poem. The other day, I was trying to clean out drawers in my desk. I got some of them cleaned out. And I found this poem that I had saved, and I just loved it, and I think it's a good poem for everybody. In fact, I made copies and sent them to my grandchildren. This poem was written by a man who died at the age of 24 after struggling with a drug habit. And he sent it to his sister, and his sister sent it to Ann Landers, and then Ann Landers printed it, and this is the poem. It's called The Man in the Glass. When you get what you want in your struggle for life, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or your mother or wife whose judgment upon which you must pass, the fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. Some people might think you're a straight shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy. But the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest. For he's with you clear up to the end. And you've passed your most dangerous and difficult test if the guy in the glass is your friend. You may feel the whole world down the pathway of years. You may fool, the whole world down the path of years, and get pats on the back as you pass. But your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you've cheated that man in the glass.
Very good.
Who wrote that, Mary Ann?
It was written, it doesn't say who it was written by. It just says that she sent it to, his sister sent it to Ann Landers. This is old. I mean, it's, as you can see, it's a newspaper article that I cut out. And I
Yeah.
don't know who the author was, but I just
Nice
love
shade of
it.
yellow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, but we talked about that one time, how to
Yeah.
preserve newspapers, but that's,
But-
that's,
Yeah.
Was this
You ever
Ann?
look at that person in the glass without any clothes on?
No, I don't think
That's
so.
discouraging.
I guess it depends
No.
on who you are,
But
Charlie.
you know,
It
that
all-
is true. You have to be true to yourself, and a lot of people forget about that. They worry about everybody else, but you really do have to be true to yourself, and you have to like yourself. And if you don't like yourself, you're probably going to not like very many other people.
To thine own self be true. Shakespeare.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Maybe that lady ripped it off from Shakespeare, stole that whole idea and just reworked it a little bit.
No, I guess it was written by this man. It was a young man.
it was a man.
The man wrote it, yeah.
Oh,
and
he had
was,
a complex
and
if he was reading Ann Landers.
Well, no, he
I think he might have had
Didn't you
a...
listen to my
No, I think
intro?
I didn't. Charlie, do you read Ann Landers? I never
No,
read
it
Ann
was
Landers.
written by a young man who was
I have-
24 years old. He had a drug habit. He died at the age of 24. He wrote the poem and gave to his sister, and his sister sent it to Ann Landers, which I said at the beginning of the poem.
Well, she might have sent it to the police department if he was having that kind of problems, and I mean, she probably shouldn't have sent it to Ann Landers. Probably scolded the poor child. I don't.
You know,
24
Scott,
years
you
old.
can't,
I'm sorry.
You can't be, you just can't not answer something.
I
Or
like your-
say the last word.
No. I liked the words of wisdom, Mary Ann, and I was all ready to pat you on the back for that one until you told me it was a guy reading Ann Landers and his sister copied the work and sent it in. I don't know. Seems a little fishy. What do you think?
Scott, you're confused.
Oh boy. We're going to move right on in this episode because you heard a voice earlier on, and this is a fun event for us to do this and to have him come in. And until recently, I didn't know if he was still in Ohio, or what part of Ohio he was in, if he was still hanging around. Didn't really know but we found him, and so pleased to have him here today. From 1954 to 1964, one of the top television shows, period, in Columbus, Ohio, was a television show called Casper the Camel. Joining us today is the voice and like a puppeteer of Casper himself, Sky Lucy. Sky joins us today. Sky, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here. Sky, where have you been and what have you been up to?
Baby, I can't tell you. I've been writing poems to Ann Landers and I'm not getting anyplace.
Did you look at yourself in the glass?
You bet I did.
Good.
This is not real. I did this on the way up here, so. The gathering of all of you means a lot to somebody who for so long talked to hundreds or thousands of people every day. And I have one story to tell you, and I will break into tears when I tell it because I can't tell it otherwise. We had guests. Do I have time for this?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We had guests drop by, mothers with their children. After calling and saying, can we come down there? Our little girl wants us to see the camel and so forth and so on. And I always say, sure. This little boy came in a wheelchair. Some awful disease. And we made a really big deal out of him. And his mother said, thank you. And I said, well, it was our pleasure. The pleasure was mine. And 2 days later, he died. And he mentioned us as he died. Now that makes you stop and think about what you can do to people if you're paying attention.
Well,
Good story.
I got to tell you, Sky, and for those, I didn't introduce it, but the picture that was in the shot there, sitting on our table today, is a younger Sky Lucy and Casper, that camel that we saw on television for so many years, 10 years. What an amazing story. Charlie, it actually, the idea for this program came in my head off something you said here just a few weeks ago. You said that one of the only shows you could get out of Columbus, Ohio, during that time, 50s and 60s, was Casper the Camel.
Yes. I can, in that era of my life, I don't treasure it at all. I lived in a crummy little apartment, and when I got home from work every day, I tried to tune, I had a used TV. It was about a 1950 or 51 model, and very small. And I had no antenna, so I sneaked a ribbon out of the window and wrapped it around the neighbor's TV lead-in until they caught me. And the only thing I could get was Channel 6 and Casper the Camel in the afternoons. And I can remember, that's the only thing I remember ever seeing on that TV was Casper the Camel. And that's something how things really stick with you.
What station were you on?
WTVN.
WTVN.
And then it was W what?
SYX.
Now it's SYX.
SYX.
Somebody bought them out.
And I'll tell you something about that, just in doing my research for a program like this. WSYX in Columbus, this is not talking out of school, has always terminally had the worst ratings in Columbus as opposed to the others. BNS, CMH has always been last place in Columbus. To have a show like this on that network, black and white, to be competitive for the #1 spot in Columbus is saying something, because unless somebody points it out to me, I don't believe there's ever been a show on TVN or what became SYX that was as competitive as Casper the Camel in its day. Am I wrong on that, Sky?
No, that's true. The one exception is Bob Marvin
Oh, yes.
and Flippo.
Flippo.
He spent a lot of money and gave everything. He worked for years after he retired. And I asked him one day, he was a good friend, and I asked him, I said, do you market the face cream? I mean, is that something we can all try? And how does your face stay on together with doing that excuse me, dear, doing that every day for 20, 30 years? You'd think it would just kind of melt off in the night someplace. And he didn't say anything. He just did it. That was part of what he had to do. But he stayed doing it. He went to work for Time Warner, and because he just couldn't stop. I mean, he just couldn't stop. I could stop. We had an infusion of electronics, a tape recorder. The station bought one, and we all carried it around every once in a while. And we had no equipment, and the other stations were starting to buy equipment. Then color came in, and we had no color. We had nothing, and it was time. Johnny Carson, and I was told this, and I'm not totally sure if it's accurate. Johnny Carson started out on the Dumont Network, which was pre-ABC, and when I was on the air, he was either in front of me on the schedule or behind me, and I can't tell you which one. And of course, he was just a lonely, one-time comedian, nice guy, pleasant, Mother brings him home something to eat, one of those things. And what happened when ABC got him? They got some professional people in there, and he went on to become what he is, an icon in this business, absolutely. But I always say, yeah, I was with Johnny Carson today.
But then he went to NBC, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where he ended up,
Do
yeah.
you remember in the early days of TV, was it Dumont that made TVs? I know there was Dumont
Yes.
Network, but the semi trucks that carried those TVs had a great big sign on the side that said, "I'd like to give these away, but my wife won't let me," emphasizing these sets were cheaper.
I think they made electronic equipment.
Yeah.
I think Dumont was that's where they made their money. They certainly didn't make it on television broadcasting. If they got away with anything, it was a gift from some wealthy philanthropist that, or whatever that word is.
And I was
Philanthropist.
just thinking
Too many syllables.
you're only the second puppeteer person to be in Marion. The other was represented Whirlpool, was Fran Allison. She came in our building when she was working for Whirlpool, especially at celebrating their millionth dryer. But she was quite a and she was on the Breakfast Club every day. Aunt Fanny. Yeah, that was an era.
That's back when television was fun.
Oh yes.
Now it's money.
Radio
It's
used
all
to be
money.
fun
Everything
too.
is money.
Yeah.
And I heard today that if anybody's a sports fan, that Peyton Manning is the possibility of his getting a paycheck if he does something and does something else is $28 million for the year. Now that's 1 year. I think that's ridiculous myself, And a baseball player that I saw on television, also a little kid, 24 years old, is being paid $50 million just to sign. And if he signs with the Yankees or somebody, it's another $50 million.
Sky, in the world of big-time television as it was then, only 3 networks when you did this program. In comparison, if you want to throw out the figure, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But in the neighborhood, what were you making? #1 TV show in Columbus, Ohio, 1950s.
$95 a week.
My goodness.
And we did $95 worth of work to get that $95. The sets we had, I used to go out to a decorator named Gordon Keith. Somebody here might know Gordon. He had a big store, and he did all of Lazarus windows, including the Christmas windows. But and Gordon would give me columns and archways and all kind of stuff. And we'd bring those back in either my car or Chuck's car, And people would say, "Where'd you get that? Is that our stuff?" I said, "Oh yeah, I had it at home. I just brought it in. Why do you want it? It's $100." You know.
But you know, $95 at that time though was a lot more money than it is, of course, now, because, you know,
Well,
everything's relative.
I got $10 more for doing a Hostess commercial, and now they're collapsing. The company is
That's right.
running away.
People don't eat white bread like they used to.
They don't eat high-calorie cupcakes, which I dearly love. So I still eat them.
Twinkies are almost sacrilegious.
Extinct.
You know. Oh.
We're going to take a commercial break here in about a minute. Before we do that, though, Sky, in a minute and a half, tell me the story of how it got started. I don't think we did that. How did the show get started?
It was a fluke. It was like so many do. We had a guy on the station who did a children's show, 15 minutes every day, and Art Jacobs was his name, and his puppet was a funny-looking lizard or something. I never did know really what it was, but he announced on a Thursday that he was going to go back to Michigan State and teach political science, which is he was doing it on the air. He used to read, that's a children's show now, folks. He used to read the New York Times theater reviews, you know, and boy, that really packed up some audience, I'll tell you. So we had Friday and the weekends to either come up with something to fill 15 minutes. That was our goal, just to get something that we can do 15 minutes. So we had a meeting, all the geniuses that didn't know anything. The staff was out-of-work comedians, and you don't get a whole lot from an out-of-work comedian except all the jokes he wants to tell you. You know.
That's right.
And we kept saying, "We have no time here, Junior." Well, they come up with an animal, and I was trying for a moose. I thought a moose was funny. I still do. But somebody, Captain Kangaroo, I think, was on the air, and he had a moose, and I didn't really know that. And they said, "No, a moose is taken." I said, "Well, that's the way it goes." I said, "How about a camel? That's a pleasant-looking, funny animal that spits on you in a circus, in the zoo. If you go to a zoo and you get too close to a camel, wear a plastic drape." Because they spit, you know, and that's a hooker ball, I'll tell you, that's true. Anyhow, we called it a puppet maker in Dayton, Ohio, who made indoor puppets for all these children's shows. And we said, "Can you make us a camel?" He said, "What kind of a camel?" I said, "A camel, man, just a camel." "Well, how many kinds of camels are there, for God's sakes?" You know, big, got humps on his back and so forth. I don't need that. I just need the head. Well, he said, okay. So he went to work on it, and Sunday night he called me, and he said, "I've got your camel, and it's at the Greyhound bus station." So I drove to the bus station with $25. That's what it costs. And picked up the box, came back to Channel 6, and we all gathered around the box to see what the Sam Ho was in there, you know, what this guy did. And there was Casper, but it was done like a children's puppet show, all very shiny and neat. Well, none of us are shiny and neat, and neither is a camel, so they gave it to the artist, and he messed with it all morning. He scratched it and painted it and did put little eyelashes on. I'm sorry that I didn't bring it. I will next time if I'm ever invited back here. Which right now is something I wonder about. But anyhow, he got it ready to and we kept using it, trying it on the camera. Well, the show came. The time for the program came along. And Chuck Newsome was the announcer on duty, and I was the director on duty. We were doing other jobs. And I went around the building. Now this is a major building with probably 30 offices in it. And I asked every single person, I said, "Do you want to do the puppet?" "Oh, no, I can't do that." I said, "I can't either, but somebody's gonna do it. We got 15 minutes to fill, pal. You know, you could sneeze for 15 minutes. And you know, we'll get a sponsor." Well, nobody wanted to do it, and so they looked at me, then Mr. Go Get It, they said, Sky, you're doing it. I said, okie dokie. And I had never done a puppet in my life. I didn't have one. I didn't have one when I was a child. I didn't like puppets.
How did you talk?
Revelations
I talked
coming
like
out.
Red Skelton talked. I worried about that night, not the day it started.
You had a
Because
certain voice
the
when you did it?
the day it started, I had this puppet in my hand. I can't raise my arm here because I have arthritis. But I had it moving around, and Chuck was talking away. And at the end of 15 minutes, I won't say what he said, but he yelled through the PA system, "Move the mouth." I never moved the mouth. It was just solid. I was panic-stricken. I thought, you know, I'm doing something here that I have never done before, and it's legal. So that night I worked out trying to come up with a voice, and I was always a big Red Skelton fan. And he had a character called Clem Cadiddlehopper. And it was that I stole, because I could do that. I could imitate that to a degree that made sense. And we did. It went for all those years.
Well, I'm sorry, I was never able to see it, but I would love to
Oh,
hear you.
nasty you.
I would love,
I was changing chairs.
I would love to hear you be.
How's that?
That sounds great.
That's the opening.
That was a wonderful story, but that was the longest 2 minutes you've ever seen in your life. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come back, learn more about this. We've got special guests, all kinds of songs coming up. Be right back. Hey, Scott Spears back with you along with Mary Ann Michaels, Charlie Evers, and a blast from the past. Casper the Camel himself, Sky Lucy, a lot of fun. And if you missed the first segment of this show, you have to get a copy on the internet at our new website, www.exchangemarion.com. No spaces, www.exchangemarion.com. Be sure to check that out. Marion Exchange. Excuse me, I did have it backwards. Marion Exchange. See, Charlie, why didn't you catch that? You go all the time.
Hey, in the meantime, I forgot to mention earlier in the program, there is an experiment going out on Route 95. One of the farmers heard that you could fertilize the ground. It's talking about elephants. You could fertilize the ground if you plant radishes in the fall. Well, they planted, I don't know, hundreds of acres of radishes, but nobody told them that they rot at a certain time. And now we've got the biggest flatulent fields of radishes that you could ever smell.
It's a farmer's potty is what it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
my goodness.
And it's only a road or so away from a huge hog farm, so we got quite a combination out on 95.
Marion, home of flagellant
What?
radish fields.
Oh,
Oh,
you've
boy.
got to drive out there and smell that yourself.
Chuck laughed so hard when the big boom came that he had to go out in the hallway. He was laughing so hard he was sick. He was just, it was out of control. And I'm left alone with this Arabian guy with a spear and this poor stomach problem.
Now, people watching this, we
Yeah,
didn't
they're
get
gonna- they
the
didn't
beginning
hear
of the story happened during the break. So hold on, we'll back up here a second. And Sky, tell us what actually happened there with the elephant.
The elephant came in, from the circus, and we used to get animals and anything because we had nothing else. It was a freebie elephant. And the elephant was standing in this room. It was just about big enough for the elephant. And they asked me to get up on his back, which I did, great effort. And not wanting to do that at all, I said, no, this is wrong. I'm too young to die here. But the elephant apparently had something for lunch that didn't agree with him. And his internal system began to turn out some real great ones. I'll tell you, they shatter the glass. That's a boom that you can hear way down the street. And they're in a small room, and people are just falling on the floor laughing. You know, and I'm stuck up there with this bloody elephant.
That's a funny story. And of course, Chuck, that Sky mentioned, of course, was Chuck Newsome, who was the other gentleman on the show, who we're going to save for the next segment, because there are three ladies here who we're going to bring up who know him pretty intimately. Stay tuned for that coming up in the next segment. But want to talk about the show itself, Sky. We talked about how it started. 10 years later, hugely popular show. Why did it end?
It ended because it was time. Jerry Seinfeld said the same thing one night on his show when he was leaving. He said, there comes a time when you better to go out on the top than wait and have somebody beat you. And we had the Muppets at that time who came along, who were fabulous, and a lot of things. So it was decided, and the station was trying to work a deal with me to go out and entertain at Kroger stores. Nothing with Kroger, they didn't do anything. And take the puppet with me. And I said, are you kidding? I said, we need monitors and microphones and floormen and spending money. Well, that ended that. And they wanted me to do it for free, which was their way of doing business, and I refused. So he said, well, I guess it is time. I said, yes, it sure is.
Now, were you on the air the same time that Lucy's Toy Shop was on the air?
Yes.
So that was
Not the same time. She was on before I was, or we were. And
So you were competitors?
No,
No?
she had a whole different kind of show.
No.
She did things for little children.
Mm-hmm.
We had a show called Mary Ellen's Play Yard, which was for little children, kindergarten type kids. And Chuck was the guest that used to come by as Uncle Newt, and he put on the world's worst beard. It was made, I don't know where they made the thing, some automobile shop someplace, you know, or whatever. And he had a hat on, and he loved it. He loved doing it because it was that's the kind of man he was.
Two questions I want to come in and pick up from those stories, Sky. Number one, when you turned down Channel 6 and you said, I'm not going to go to the supermarkets, it is time to end it, did you ever regret that?
No.
No. Did you miss television? Did you do anything else in television after that?
Did I miss it? Oh yes, I miss it now. I'm an avid viewer, and I brought a scrap paper here to write ideas down if I get them, and I don't have any yet. I went.
You've been talking all this time.
I know it, and there's not one idea in there.
No light bulbs lighting up.
I did miss it. There's no question. And I went to work for WOSU, doing a weekly show called Curtain Time, and which simply was a different musical organization each week. And we would talk to the conductor and then listen to the music, and we had a great year. That was a year still known to start with. I mean, that's. And I learned a lot about music. I'll tell you later a funny story about a disc jockey, which had nothing to do with the camel. It had to do with me. it's WTBN radio called over one day. They needed a fill-in. Their night disc jockey got sick. And they said, would you do it? And I said, I've never done it in my life. And he said, it doesn't make any difference. I said, okay, if it doesn't make any difference and you're going to feed me someplace, that's fine. So I went home and I had a collection of jazz piano records, which I still have. And back in those days, the records came in a cardboard thing, a jacket, they call it. And on the back of the jacket was the historical information about the group, the plane, everything. So I took about 20 of those things to the radio station and went the entire night not knowing squat about what I was doing, I'd read the jacket before and then get on the radio and talk about this fine group and all that. And the engineer said, where'd you learn all that? I said, about 30 seconds ago on the back of a thing. You can make up stuff, right? You know, because radio, nobody's there.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And in those days, the engineer was on the other side of a big glass thing. And all you did was just talk, which is something I learned to do. To my shame sometimes.
Sky, the other question I had in that bunch was, obviously you did the voice for Casper the Camel, and that was ad-libbed. Where is the line between Sky Lucy and Casper the Camel? Is it the same person?
I don't think there was one. I've always enjoyed entertaining on that kind of catapult. I mean, it's every day it's something different. Every day we would be standing down in the studio while the theme song was playing. And Chuck would say, what are we going to talk about today? I said, I haven't any idea. Do you have an idea? He said, no. And the program started, and he started to talk, and I started to talk, and we did an hour.
There you go.
From 15 minutes. And it was good because entertaining children is great fun. They respond like nobody else in the world. A bunch of kids, you can get them laughing like crazy. I saw a thing on network television over the weekend. I even watched it on Sunday. Some show which was highly produced with costumes and all this stuff. And they had a studio audience, and all those kids did, when these people jumped up and down, all the kids jumped up and down. And you get in the habit of doing that. You know, if whatever you do, and if you make a mistake, and it's like the fishbowl I told you about. I did somebody brought in a big fish thing once, an aquarium, huge, loaded with all kinds of neat fish. None of it, I didn't have any idea what they were, but somebody did. And they put it up on a stand like this, and I got down behind it with the puppet here, and the camera is here. So it looked like I was in the water with the fish, talking to the fish, and I did some material that I created out there with the fish. The next day, a lady called and she said, if you ever do that again, I'm going to sue you. She said, I've hired a lawyer, and the lawyer said that what you did was, because my son stuck his head in the aquarium. And I said, bright child. That didn't go over very big. That was the end of the conversation as far as I was concerned. Stick your head in an aquarium.
It was your fault.
Give him a glass of water or something once in a while.
We're going to come back on the other side of that, and we're going to talk about the man who shared the stage with Sky for 10 years.
The greatest.
Yeah, Chuck Newsome. Back with Chuck Newsome stories right after this. Hey, Scott Spears back with you on this remembrance program of Casper the Camel with Sky Lucy. It's been a lot of fun. Also, Marianne Michaels and Charlie Evers here. And remember, you can check us out on the internet. Full episodes available there, www.marianexchange.com. Be sure to check that out. Now, if you watch Casper the Camel, 1954 to 1964, there was a gentleman that you saw. You didn't really see Sky because he was behind the wall or so on and so forth doing the voice of Casper. The gentleman who hosted that show was a man named Chuck Newsome. Joining us today, we're very happy that this happened, reunion here, Kathy Purcell, Barb Anklam, Connie Gableman, yeah, I got it, good, Chuck Newsome's daughters. Here we go, right over here. Thank you all for being here. It's certainly a pleasure to have Chuck represented.
Right.
3 of the 6.
Oh, neat.
Now let's start over here. Ladies, give us your fondest memory, and of course, for those of you who don't know, Chuck passed away in the early 1980s, but certainly here in spirit today. Ladies, your favorite memory of your father doing this program?
Well, I'm Connie. And first of all, 1954 is the greatest year ever, not just because Casper Caber started, but I was born that year. It was a year of creativity. But one of my fondest memories was just going to the show sometimes. And I knew who you were. I knew where you were. But there was Casper, and you just became Casper to us. And you and Daddy, I mean, it wasn't, you said, you know, Daddy was the meat and potatoes. You guys were so perfect together.
That was
You
a
know,
gravy.
the flavor. It was absolutely a wonderful time of our lives.
He was the most giving person. If he thought of something that he thought was funny or he thought was useful, he would tell you. He never held anything back to make himself more important. He wanted to be part of something, but when he did a sportscast, every once in a while, that's when he shined. That's when he really shined.
And the voiceovers and things that he did.
Right.
Also.
Well, his voice was fantastic. He had the voice. He had the voice, absolutely.
Somebody was yelling at him. The thing I remember is he was the same person on TV as he was all the time.
Probably.
So what everybody saw was what we had all the time. And the jokes, I mean, sometimes his jokes were so dumb. But he would just laugh so much that we'd all start laughing.
Before he even finished.
And we'd be like, that wasn't even funny, Daddy, and then we'd still be laughing. But that's how he was on TV too. And with you guys, when you were together without Casper, you two had so much chemistry that you were like
We were
best
lucky.
friends.
We were lucky.
And it showed on the TV show.
Right.
too.
We were lucky. Absolutely.
But yeah, that he was a great guy, and we just loved watching him. We were famous because of that. Pretty much that. Is your dad Chuck Newsome? Oh, yes, yes.
No, it was a
So
great
he was a
loss
great guy.
when he passed away.
Yeah.
And his Rita were the same.
Yeah, she's
His family was exceptional. I saw you a couple of times when you were all little. He took me to his house once, and all these kids running around. I said, "All these yours?" You know, do you have name tags here for everybody?
And we were all like a year apart.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. You bet.
Yeah, she
But
was great.
that was a man that I will not forget ever, ever.
Barb, memories of Casper the... Oh, Beth, excuse me.
I probably have a few more memories than they do because I'm the oldest sister here. But they wanted me to say that, so I said that. I just remember my dad being sort of shy, but he had such a dry wit that the things that came out of his mouth were just hilarious because, like Barb said, he was like that at home too. And my mom would just roll her eyes and look at him like, Chuck, you know, and we just hear her say, Chuck, you know, come on, you know, like that. But the thing I remember the most is I probably got to go to the station more often than some of the younger ones. So I would go there sneak around and check things out and meet people that would come into the station that you would interview.
Yeah.
And I remember that quite well for 10 years. So by the
He
time
did-
the show
he
ended,
did
I
that.
was
He
a
was-
teenager.
He was brilliant as an interviewer because he got right to the source of things immediately. He didn't diddle around with stuff. He knew in his head where he was going to go, and you can't beat people like that. You just can't beat them.
When you were at the studio back then, as this picture we're looking at here in the corner of the screen, Sky at that age, doing the camel, what kind of guy was he like then? What do you remember? Memories of Sky at that age, 58 years ago now.
20 years old. 19 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
She's sort of a character. Like the two of them together were just made for each other to work together and communicate with each other
You
and,
want to
and
know
build
the
off of each
most
other's
famous
jokes.
line that your father did to me, and he loved to do things like this. There was a time, and I'm not going to get into personal things here, but I was supposedly running around with somebody else's wife,
Oh,
which I wasn't. And it was in the paper, and he sued me, and we just forgot the whole thing. But the show came on the air the day after the paper, and Chuck always had an intro. He always had a nice intro for to start. And he said, "Now, folks, I'd like you to meet the old homewrecker."
oh,
Wow.
And I would just as soon sit down on the floor and die right then and there. There is no answer to that,
No
folks.
comeback, no comeback.
And he laughed, and he just thought that was so funny, and I said, "I'm gonna kill you in the parking lot."
well, what people might not...
Old homewrecker, I won't forget that line.
What people might not realize who are hearing about this show for the first time today, who don't remember it. Now, this was, I think, billed as sort of a children's show, but the camel itself really did not have it wasn't like Lucy's Toy Shop. Didn't have that type of personality, did it, Sky?
No, it was never intended to be for children. They were there, and the mothers are the ones that bought the product. So we had to take the written commercial that people would hand us and go over it, and we did, after a while, after a year or two, you didn't have to go over it. You could just almost imagine what it said there. They gave us houses to sell. I mean, some realtor came out there with some houses to sell, and that was we ate that for lunch. I'll tell you that right now. That guy never came back again. He's probably still traveling somewhere. But the mothers paid for it, and the children were there, and they were fun to have, and we played the same old cartoons over and over again, and they couldn't care less. A child can hear the book, read a book, read me a story, same one you did last night, who cares? Doesn't make any difference.
You know, since I've let people know we were going to do this show and that we were going to talk about Casper, well, first of all, I do want to make this point because Casper the Camel, the puppet, is still around, is he not, Sky?
He's right now. He's been in my living room in a bag, and I didn't bring him. I'm sorry.
No,
I will, if I'm ever invited back, I'll bring him.
If Sky will come back just for that at some point to see, so we can see Casper live and in person.
It's an amazing piece of equipment to have lasted. There was only one, or there is only one, and it lasted all those years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it really was.
Was there any problem coming in possession of that when the show ended?
Yeah, they wanted it, and the floor man, who was a nice old guy, he hid it, and I came back to claim my stuff and whatnot, and he said, "It's in the back in the proper room. I got it for you." You know.
That's great.
So
That's
I put it in a paper sack and went out the front door.
But it should be in a place of prominence in your house, is it?
No, because I have enough problems, my dear, with the neighbors and stuff, thinking I'm a loose cannon in the first place. If I had a camel's head on the mantle, I wouldn't be in this room without a guard.
I think you should put it in a place of importance.
It's in my closet.
Well, it should not be there.
In a sterling silver bag
No,
from
that
somebody. I don't know where I got that.
Casper needs to be put out. Don't you agree? I do.
I have seen him. He still looks the same. He's still there. Now, ladies, I want you to help me out with something here because you were around when this show was on. And when I went to the internet and I said we were going to do a show like this, a lot of the comments I got were about the songs on this show. There were 3 songs that people commented on. They were the opening, they were the birthday song, which was unique, and they were the prayer at the end, absolutely. Now, I want to save the prayer for when we end the program today, but ladies, the lyrics are here if you don't remember them exactly, but you remember them exactly before I hand you the papers.
I don't.
Okay. Well, well, give us the birthday song. Let's hear the birthday song.
We have our musical sister here with us. Who could carry us? But
People will love to hear the lyrics.
Can I tell them the story of the birthday song?
Tell it before we hear it. That way they can collect and get ready.
This is totally out of context as to what we're talking about, but there was a big party one night at the opening of a studio in Columbus. Mills James was the 2 men that did it.
Oh, sure.
And
I'm
know,
familiar with
sure,
Mills James,
Ken
yes.
Mills was amazing.
Yeah.
But he took me on a tour of the studio, and we got to the second floor to the lunchroom, and he said, "Do you know what we do in there?" I said, "Well, can I talk about it in the hallway here? How about lunch? Let's try that for an opener." And he said, "If somebody has a birthday, everybody who is available comes up to the lunchroom and they sing the birthday song from that show."
Oh.
This is a bunch of adults who get together and sing to the person who's having a birthday. And I thought he was kidding. So he called a bunch of people in and they sang the bloody thing, and I thought, I'll be damned.
We still sing. I think that
The birthday song Well, I can say this now because the copyrights are all dead. But the birthday song came from Fred Rogers, who did
Oh, of course.
the sweater gentleman.
Yes, yes.
A great show
Yeah.
for really little kids. That was
Yes.
the design. And the prayer was his show also. And because we had a director that was hired who worked in Pittsburgh at that station, and surreptitiously slipped the stuff to me, and I said, well, can we do this? He said, we can try, and we did it for years. And I have a copy someplace. I look for it and over the weekend, and there's too many boxes. But there's a copy of the prayer, and it was done because I wanted the program to end when I said it was going to end on Friday, and then there would be the commercials. I didn't want to have to, have to mess around. So I did sing that with I made the motion with the E.T. and Bill Palmer playing piano with the mouth. Yeah, thank you. I finally learned how to move the mouth. Yeah, right. Oh, you should have been there, but he.
Ladies, the birthday song we've been hearing so much about? Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. That's wonderful.
How great to hear that. And
Very
remember,
good.
the theme song to the show was called Come On and Play. That was the opening to the show?
No, the Come On and Play was another show. The opening was the Firehouse Five playing that Dixieland jazz thing.
Oh.
Come On and Play was a show done by a very talented lady who did it for kindergarten. That's what
Oh,
Chuck
okay.
was on all the time.
Yeah.
He loved being on there. Were you on it? Yeah.
We get that all straightened out. Listen, we're going to come back with the prayer. We're going to keep everybody up here. About 5-7 minutes left in the program. We'll be back to close up right after this. Hey, back with you on the exchange here. Remember the website, MarionExchange.com. No spaces. You can watch this, rewind it, tell all your friends. It's going to be a great place, a great thing to check out. A lot of fun. Of course, Charlie Evers, Marianne Michaels on the panel today, and we've had fun with the Casper the Camel Remembrance Tribute Program with Sky Lucy, voice and creator of Casper the Camel. Unfortunately, we don't have Casper here today, but for all you who wonder, he does still exist.
My fault. I
No,
apologize.
no.
I forgot to put it in the car.
The one,
They're right by the door.
the one and only Casper the Camel, the one and only puppet there ever was, still does exist.
And it shall return.
And it shall return to the airwave here pretty soon, and we'll have fun with that when that comes around. Also joined by Kathy Purcell, Barb Anklem, and Connie Gableman, the daughters, 3 of the daughters of Chuck Newsome, who was the cohort on Casper the Camel for so many years. Before we wrap up the program, and we are going to have Sky do the prayer at the very end today because I know that was very important to so many people. I want to go around here. Charlie, you mentioned Casper kind of from a seed of something you said grew today's program. Has it been fun? Have you learned anything?
Oh, yes.
Thoughts on today's program?
I never dreamed that I would see the gentleman behind Casper the Camel, because that meant so much to me. When I came home, I was all alone every afternoon, and working with the TV, fine-tuning it, getting it to stop rolling, and to get Casper the Camel.
Remember.
And that is the only program I remember watching. Can you imagine?
And here it is today.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Absolutely
Thank you.
amazing.
I knew somebody was out there.
Yeah. And that was,
Nice to know who it was.
and that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Marianne,
Absolutely.
thoughts on this walk down memory lane?
I think it's been so much fun. It's always interesting to hear the stories of broadcasters. Having been one myself, it's just really neat. I can identify, and I think it's great.
Kathy, Barb, Connie, this has been a major part of your life, I would imagine. What are your thoughts on what we've done today and seeing Sky again?
Well,
What,
when you called me on Thursday, I was so excited. I called my sisters right away. I'm thinking, wow, people still remember Dad? You know, I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
because everyone's so young anymore. If you mention Chuck Newsome, unless it's their parents or something who don't remember him. So it was so exciting to get the call. And then I told my sisters, we just went with it. You almost had all 6 of us.
well, hopefully, when we get the camel here, we'll be able to come back and take a look and see the camel.
You guys live here? In Columbus today?
Yeah, just a little trip up the road.
Still, yeah. Right.
Sky, you are to my knowledge, the 2 cast members, and there were, I'm sure, people on the crew there, but certainly one of the remainders of this bygone era. We've talked about Lucy. Lucy's no longer with us. We've talked about Flippo. He's no longer with us. You're still here.
Gene Fullen also.
Gene Fullen,
Who was,
Sally
Yes, I
Flowers.
Very much a part of
Sally
Jane,
Flowers.
yes.
A lot of. What's today meant to you walking down memory lane with this character you did for 10 years?
Well, I have a habit of breaking into tears at a movie. I can sit at home and watch a movie, and the ending comes out right, and I tear up. I got to grab the Kleenex or the Buffs, and I'm a very emotional person, and I think that helped to do what we did. Because you forgot everything when the guy said, you know, you go, you did something for an hour that you didn't do any other time, and except your father, who was walked around breaking everybody up. He was a funny man, and he was bright, and he was a loving person. And if you wanted the shirt that he was wearing, he would have given it to you on the spot. Absolutely.
Sky, I want to clear up 2 things here. One question was
Sure.
probably the most I heard on the internet. It's a silly question, and then the other more
No
important.
question is silly.
Is your real name Sky Lucy?
Yes, it's the Sky is Skylar, which I was born with, and my parents had an argument. Apparently, my father wanted Skylar, and my mother didn't like it. She didn't have a choice, but she didn't like it. So when I was old enough to be named, she slipped in and put Sky there, and was calling me Sky, and it stuck. It stuck all my entire life. few people say Schuyler. They say Schuler and Schuyler, and they figure out ways to mispronounce it, and it's maddening. But Sky Lucy is that's it. That's real.
The other question, and like I say, we'll have the puppet on sometime soon, Casper himself, but it's interesting because Mary Ann, without even thinking there, went in and said this should be in a museum, this should be up on a mantle, should not be in the closet. I'm sure Charlie, watching all these years, feels the same way. These ladies over here, I'm sure, feel the same way. It's in your house, and when I came down to visit you, and you went into the closet and pulled out this thing and told me what it was made of, that it was ping pong balls and paper mache and a rug. When you get out those ping pong balls, paper mache, and a rug that looks like a camel, what's it mean to you? What is that?
It means that the